There are two words in the English language that people often interchange, and they think of them as synonyms, but really they're very different. And those two words are average and normal. We assume that if this is the average thing that people do, it must be normal. But just because the average person does something or is considered average doesn't mean it's actually normal. If you want to know what's normal and what's not normal, you have to look in the Torah to see what's considered normal behavior and what's considered abnormal behavior. You can't just look out and say, if most people do this, it must be normal. When we come to the night of the Pesach, it says, Rabbi Gamliel says, whoever doesn't say these three words does not fulfill their obligation on the night of Pesach. What are the three most important words at the night of the seder? Pesach, matzah, maror, the paschal lamb, the matzah, and the bitter herbs. But the question is, the order should have been the opposite. Because first the Jews experienced the bitter persecution, the slavery. Then they ate the paschal lamb, and then they went free and ate the matzah when they left Egypt. So it should have been maror, Pesach, and matzah. Why does Rabbi Gamliel say Pesach, matzah, maror? Why maror last? And the answer is that sometimes we don't realize how bitter a situation is until you go free from that situation. Sometimes when you're in the midst of something, you begin to accept it as normal, and you tolerate it, and you don't realize how terrible the situation is. Only after you free yourself from that situation, then you can look back and say, boy, that was so bitter. How did I tolerate that? How did I accept that? How did I live with that? But when you're in the middle of it, you develop survival skills, like the body develops antibodies to fight off a disease, and you accept it as a normal situation. So Pesach gives us the ability to take a step back and look at our lives, or different areas of our lives, and say, are there any areas that I've come to accept as normal and tolerate it, when I really should not be tolerant of it? It should be unacceptable to me to be doing this or acting this way or experiencing that. Because sometimes when we're in the midst of something, they say the worm in the horseradish thinks the horseradish is the sweetest place. It's only when you go free and you exonerate yourself from something, then you could see how terrible it was. But unless we have the courage to do that, we can't really experience that out. I'll just tell you that I have a friend who needed to lose 100 pounds. And thank God, he went on a very strict diet, and he already lost 70 pounds. Only has 30 more to go. And this was something he was carrying for many, many years. But he tells me how his whole life has changed. Imagine. And how happy he is. And he doesn't understand how he ever lived that way, right? But sometimes you feel, I can't get out of my situation, it's too difficult, this is my plight, this is my lot. But when you find the courage to break free of something, then you look back and say, wow, that was really bitter. I don't know how I tolerated it. So sometimes it's good to be tolerant, but sometimes we have to be intolerant.